Hello everybody, I'm Scoop, and Breaking Bad is so good, you guys. Now, that's not exactly a new or hot take, but I finally finished the series for the first time like a month and a half ago, and I took a bit of a break from it. I watched the first couple episodes of Better Call Saul the last week or so, and that's already shaping up to be one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. But every time I clicked on one of these shows, there was something pulling at the strings of the back of my mind. It was the Breaking Bad Collection's only movie, El Camino. Badass name, right? But after checking with some friends if I should actually watch it or not, I got a long, resounding list of But last night I didn't have shit to do, so I finally threw it on, and it's not really, it's not that good. It's pretty meh. My friends were right, so, you know. So Netflix made a really big deal while promoting this movie. It was the big return to the Breaking Bad universe, and the whole crew was coming back for this one. You know, it was basically like as if they were making another season of the show, except it had a movie budget and, you know, it was 2 hours long. Which, it's not wrong or deceitful. That is exactly what it was. That's how they did it, which is cool. But I don't know. I mean, that seems like a lot of big promotion for something kind of bland and whatever. It just feels like the whole team wasn't really on their A game here, except for the cinematography, fantastic as always, and it just makes us a very disappointing watch. There's no massive increase in scale versus what we see in the show, there's no shootouts to rival Hank versus the cousins, no, crazy villain to rival Tuco or Gus, or even Todd, who technically is the villain of this movie, sort of. Any of those amazing Breaking Bad set pieces that come to mind when you think of the show's best moments, there's just nothing here that gets anywhere close to being as impactful as those moments. It's just Jesse running around town after he gets freed from the compound, getting money so he can get the fuck out of Dodge. So the way I'm going to discuss this movie is in the terms of the "Is it worth it" title that I gave, because, like I said, Netflix brought the whole team back together, promoted the shit out of this, and it was just, I mean, Breaking Bad is Breaking Bad, like, it's insane. So the idea of the entire crew coming back together, that's a big deal, but was it worth bringing them back together? Well, we're going to talk about it, but you can probably already guess my answer. But before we actually get into talking about the movie, I should probably talk about the last couple episodes of Breaking Bad, just so we can get a bit more perspective on where we're at. I think Breaking Bad has one of the best series finales of all time. Once again, not really a hot take, but for a more specific reason than most other people. I've had this unspoken rule that I pay attention to in TV shows where, even for the season, I don't think the finale should be the climax where everything goes down. The climax should be in the episode before, and the finale should be a resolution. Breaking Bad actually does follow this phenomenally. Ozymandias, the third to last episode of the show, that's the climax. That's where everything goes to shit. That's where Hank dies, the whole family falls apart, and Walt tries to go on the run, but the family doesn't join him. We have Granite State as the falling action of Walt finally escaping and hiding out and sort of facing what he's done, but also getting a pretty good series stinger, basically, of him leaving the bar as he evades the cops one last time. But then we come back together for Felina, where it's just Walter White fucking revenge porn before he dies. And it's just phenomenally well done. Mr. Gilligan, he really understands the story chart, okay? He knows what's up. So we know Walter gets Hank killed, tries and fails to get the family to start over with a new life, does so alone, and then, like I said, lives out the ultimate revenge fantasy, and then dies from a stray bullet. But Jesse has a much tougher time throughout these last few episodes, so I had to revisit them before making this video and sort of keep track of what happened with him. So after Hank is killed, Walter gives Jesse up to Todd, Jack, and their goons, and they still steal millions of dollars of Walt's money anyway. Jack wants to kill Jesse for ratting on Todd on camera, but Todd says Jesse can cook meth for them to sell and keep making that dough. So they keep him in a cage and force him to cook until Walter returns, kills Jack and all the men, and frees Jesse. Jesse then gets revenge by choking Todd to death with his handcuffs and rides off into the night just before the police arrive, leaving his story pretty open-ended. So yeah, Walt's story, very solid ending, shot by, stray bullet, dies in the meth lab, and then the police show up. But Jesse, he's just out there, and usually that kind of pisses me off when a finale has a sort of, open-ended note, but ever since the BoJack Horseman series finale, I've started coming around to that a lot more, and I didn't really mind how Jesse's story ended. I mean, you could probably make a pretty solid guess at what he's going to do. We've spent 5 seasons getting to know the ins and outs of how these characters think, so what do you think Jesse would do if he suddenly escaped from the meth-cooking jail cell? He's probably going to do whatever he can to get money back together and use the vacuum escape guy to go escape to a new life, right? Or maybe, he'll just get caught by police on the way out and finally find peace in a jail cell. Really anything along those lines of him just trying to move on and start fresh and either, succeeding in getting to do that or failing and winding up in jail. And it doesn't even matter where he physically ends up. That's the prediction I was just making. All that matters is his story is concluded because he's finally free. He doesn't have Walter or Gus or Hank or anyone like breathing down his neck, forcing him to do what they need him to do. He can just do whatever he thinks is right from now on. So where does that leave us with El Camino, a movie centered on Jesse just moments after he escapes the compound? What exciting story is left to tell that needs a whole movie with 2 hours to tell it? What new part of this universe are we going to get to see? Oh, Jesse just collects some money before he disappears. And it takes 2 hours for him to do that, so... Like, come on, guys, that's it? That's all you could come up with for the big return to the Breaking Bad universe in movie form for the one and only time? Jesse gets money and then leaves, which we already saw happen in the show like 3 times, and even more times, I think, on Better Call Saul. I mean, I would assume. I'm not far enough in it yet, but come on, guys. Okay, so the story on its own, kind of disappointing, but how's the actual movie itself? Well, take an episode of Breaking Bad, make it 2 hours long, widen that aspect ratio a bit, bump up the lighting, and boom, you got yourself El Camino. It just feels so long, despite not that much occurring or changing as a result of the story. Jesse goes to Pete and Badger's house to get cleaned up and hides from the police, and this is by far the best chunk of the movie. It's not even close. Breaking Bad is actually kind of a black comedy, which is not something I see a lot of people discuss. I mean, just look at the premise. It's a boring but genius high school chemistry teacher who starts cooking meth with a former burnout student after getting diagnosed with cancer. If you cut the cancer part, that sounds like a pretty enjoyable but silly premise, and the first 3 seasons really take advantage of that. I went back just, in the background and had on episodes from seasons 1 and 2, and I forgot how funny they were sometimes. So having Pete and Badger try to figure out how to handle Jesse after he just escaped from living in a cage for like a year, it's just that perfect dark comedic blend I was looking for. After Jesse gets cleaned up, Pete comes up with a pretty smart plan for how to handle Todd's car, the El Camino that the movie is named after for some reason, even though it's only in this one scene, because the cops, they find the low jack on it, which means the cops are GPS tracking him, and obviously they're hunting down Jesse after showing up at the compound, blah, 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 blah. So they have to get rid of the car and get rid of Jesse. I had to reread the wiki plot summary to find out what the plan was, because in the movie, it's presented very convolutedly, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Skinny Pete stays home with the El Camino and waits for the cops. Meanwhile, Badger takes Pete's car and poorly hides it by the Mexican border, and Jesse drives off in Brandon's car. Yeah, that did sound a little bit confusing, but it makes perfect sense. Essentially, Pete is just going to tell the cops that he and Jesse swapped cars because they both had cool cars, and then they're going to think because Pete's car is hidden poorly by the border that Jesse took Pete's car to the border and escaped into Mexico, but meanwhile Jesse drove off in Brandon's car because the police don't know that Brandon is involved, and he's just, wherever he's at. This is where Breaking Bad excels, because it's funny, but it's still dark and dramatic, and it's a bunch of druggies trying to outsmart the police. Like, come on, that's exactly what I want from Breaking Bad. More of that, please. So Jesse takes the car and goes to Todd's apartment to tear everything up in search of his money. We know the money's there, because we get a super duper long flashback to Todd taking Jesse to his apartment while Jesse was still in captivity to remove the body of a cleaning lady that Todd killed because she found the money. And the reason they're able to do this is because Uncle Jack and the boys are going fishing for the weekend, and Todd specifies that he got specific permission to allow him to do this, and I don't really know why Jesse doesn't try to escape when he's just standing around Todd's apartment. I mean, sure, they threaten Brock, but come on, Jesse, you're a meth cooking slave. So if you're wondering why I wasn't looking at the camera for that segment, this movie is so boring. I'm not even enjoying summing it up all that much, but we're gonna keep going. That flashback, though, is 7 minutes long of Todd and Jesse just kicking it at Todd's apartment and Todd being a big old, stupid goofball with no social skills. Is that really presenting us anything new on Todd that we don't already know? Not particularly. Is Todd already dead, so trying to build more up to this villain that we already built up for the second half of the final season of Breaking Bad necessary? No, it doesn't build him up anymore because he's dead. He already was built up. Anyway, Jesse sits down after hours of ripping the place up and realizes the money is hidden in the fridge, but before he can get to it, 2 FBI agents walk in, and one of them finds Jesse, and they get into a really tense standoff, but then Jesse realizes that they're not FBI agents, they're just other people trying to steal the money. So while one of them is distracted pretending to be an FBI agent, one of the guys and Jesse decide to split the money 3 ways. So Jesse takes it, and then he leaves, and then he goes to find Mr. Vacuum Guy, and Mr. Vacuum Guy is like, yeah, I can make you disappear, but you also gotta pay me for last time when you flaked on me, so it's double the price of usual. So Jesse gives him all the money, and then Jesse realizes he's just under $2,000 short, and the guy's like, sorry, no deal, I'm gonna call the cops on you if you can't get these $2,000. So Jesse decides that he's gonna go find the guy who he made the deal with, who it actually turns out welded his fucking contraption together that helped him walk around and cook meth but still be enslaved, why does that guy need to be like a fleshed out big bad for the Breaking Bad movie? The random dude who welded Jesse's cage together? I don't know. So Jesse finds him in a warehouse, and then the two get in a duel over the $2,000 just because the welder guy is like, hey, let's duel over the $2,000 because fuck it, why not? So Jesse shoots him in the face because obviously Jesse's gonna win the duel, and then Jesse kills a bunch of the guy's goons, and then 3 of the goons are like, yo, we don't want no trouble. So Jesse's like, all right, get the fuck out of here. And then Jesse blows up the whole building because obviously if he's a man on the run from the law, blowing up the entire building is clearly an easier way of hiding your evidence than just like leaving 3 dead bodies behind. I mean, I'm just, okay, you know what? This movie is so boring. I'm not even enjoying summing it up. I am flying through the plot. I'm skipping over details. It's just fucking boring. Like I said, absolutely no reason for this guy to suggest a duel over $2,000. I mean, does he really hate his life that much? He's willing to 50-50 it over $2,000 when they already split over $500,000. And on top of that, there's just so many random ass flashbacks thrown in here. Like, I don't even fucking know, guys. So I've used the phrase man on the run earlier in this video. That's because Vince Gilligan himself said he wanted this to be like a tense action thriller man on the run story. Jesse's final stand in the Breaking Bad universe before he gets his dramatic conclusion, right? That's not what we get. We just get Jesse fucking around. He steals $200,000 and then he steals 2,000 more, shoots 3 guys, blows up a building, and then moves to Alaska. Why did we need a movie out of this? And then once Jesse blows up the building, we get a 7-minute flashback of him and Walter talking and eating lunch. Like, this is supposed to be this big moment. Like, Walter White is back. Bryan Cranston has reprised the role. He's ready to yell, Jesse, we need to cook once more, you know? He's back in the role. But, like, we don't learn anything new from their conversation. They just sit there, and it just reinforces more traits that were developed over 5 seasons of television a few years before this movie came out. Why is this here, bro? This 7-minute scene of them eating fucking salads together at a bar after a cooking session. Like, who cares? And then once Jesse escapes to Alaska while he's driving off from Houdini Vacuum Man, we get a 2-minute flashback of him talking to Jane in the car. And Jane's like, you know, you just gotta go with the universe, bro. Just flow with the vibes, if you know what I'm saying. And what is that supposed to be the theme of the movie? That now that, you know, like I said earlier, Jesse doesn't have someone breathing down his neck, he's able to do whatever he wants and flow with the universe? Because what about the universe was telling him he has to duel that guy and then blow up the building and then threaten the families of the 3 guys who he leaves behind? I mean, what about this movie has been like, yeah, go with the flow, bro? And then on top of that, the only reason Jesse goes to Alaska is because the movie opens with a flashback of Mike and Jesse talking at, I don't know, some point during the show. Jesse's like, hey, Mike, just be a real goofy, silly guy with me for a minute, bro. Like, if you could just get a fresh start, where would you go? Just, like, out of curiosity. Like, the movie needs me to have a specific reason to go somewhere, so why don't you give that to me right now? And Mike is like, Alaska fucks. So that's why Jesse goes to Alaska. I have very detailed specific notes. This is one of the longest scripts I've written in a long time, and I'm not even reading them because it's just bland and stupid and boring. And I really wanted to make this video at the start of this video, but now I'm really losing my patience for this fucking movie. Like, I started off by going, like, it's not that bad. It's a pretty fine movie. It's just a little boring. And now I'm like, no, this movie's fucking stupid. There's literally no reason. So I apologize if I've been rambling and it's been a little incoherent. Ever since my Snyder video, that one had just way too much rambling. I've been trying to get more focused bullet points, give a lot more specifics in my breakdowns and reviews, which I think I've been pretty good at. But this movie is just breaking me down as I'm trying to go through it. I'm so sorry about this. So, El Camino is not great. I've been looking at it through this lens of, was it worth it? And clearly, no, it was not. There was no need for this movie. We've learned nothing new. We haven't expanded the universe in any way, shape, or form. Jesse's ending destiny isn't anything shocking or surprising. It's the most predictable outcome possible. We did not need an El Camino movie. I mean, like I said, Jesse stealing $200,000, realizing he needs 2,000 more, so he steals 2,000 more and blows up a building. Does any of that really scream Breaking Bad movie? We can't do this in the show. It's too ambitious. No, absolutely not. We saw way bigger stuff in the show, which is one of my biggest complaints about the movie. So what do I give this movie? I'm going to give it like a reluctant 5. I want to give it like a 4, but it's not technically that bad. I mean, The plot holes in it are really not that strong outside of why did Jesse get into a duel and why did he blow up the building. Besides that, it's a pretty sound movie overall. Like I said, cinematography is fantastic. Aaron Paul, as always, killing it in this role. All the actors are doing a pretty solid job. It's just too long, it's too boring, and it's just a pointless movie, which is really shitty to say because, art is subjective. People get different takeaways out of everything, but this movie, I don't know what you were supposed to get out of it. It was supposed to be like resolution on Jesse's character, but it just ends him in a predictable and boring spot versus the exciting place he left off in the show by driving off into the night in the El Camino. So, should you watch this? Nah, probably just throw it on in the background with some video games or something going if you're a Breaking Bad fan. If you're not a Breaking Bad fan, absolutely no reason to watch this movie at all. And even if, you just kind of watched the show in passing a few years ago, is it worth it to boot up Netflix and watch it? No, not really. Can't recommend it. So, thank you all very much for watching. Please, like this video if you enjoyed. I would really appreciate that. Please subscribe if you haven't already and you enjoyed this video. Go check out some of my other videos. I work very hard on them. I'm at 199 subscribers right now. I need one more of you guys. If one person watching this video can subscribe, that would be fantastic. Please do so. Thank you very much. Anyway, guys, that's all I got to say on El Camino. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and keep it crispy.